Hey Jeremy, I got your dark saber here that I wanted to go over, just kind of go as an operation guide. So I'll start with the outside of the saber. I didn't really do anything to the outside. This is the hilt as it comes from Korbanth, but I'll just kind of go over all its basic parts. So this is the blade plug. It's held in with some screws. You can kind of see the holes here. I have them taken out just for the sake of the video because it takes a while to take them in and out. So in here there's 2 sets of 4 of 2 different types of screws. One's longer than the other. The shorter ones are for when the blade plug is in. When you have the actual blade in, there's the longer screws that you'll use, and they actually thread into the blade a little bit. So they have to obviously go, you know, through the hilt into the blade, so that's why they're longer. Moving on down, this is your button right here. This particular hilt only has 1 button, so I'll go over how to function a saber that utilizes 1 button. A lot of sabers use 2 buttons, so this is a little bit different, so I'll go over that and make sure you are familiar with it. So to get inside the saber to your chassis, to take the battery in and out and such, you just want to take this screw out, and what it's doing is holding the pommel in place. And this is actually a 3-piece component here. There's a little nut, kind of a spacer, and then the screw itself. So then you can take the pommel right out. Obviously that screw goes into that hole right there, so when you're putting it back in, you just got to make sure those are lined up. And then to take the chassis out, what I like to do is kind of cup my hand and bump the saber to get it to come down. And there it is right there sticking out. So you can pull that straight out. And this is your chassis. I did not personally 3D design this chassis. This was designed by Jeremy over at Solo Sabers. He's another really well-known lightsaber installer. I decided to utilize his chassis because I was not familiar with how to make a chassis with this unique shape. Usually lightsaber hilts are more like, you know, just a regular circle on the inside. So I decided to go with his. So at the top here, you have your Neopixel Poco pins. They make contact with the bottom of your blade, and this is what transfers the power and the data from the board to the blade. You got your soundboard. Your SD card is right here that you can easily access. If you decide that you want to learn how to put sound fonts on and edit your lightsaber, you would do it through this SD card. You would pop it in a micro SD card reader, and you can access everything on there. Your battery goes in here, and so your battery, flat side is negative, the button top is the positive side. The positive goes to here, and the spring goes to the negative side of your battery. And then you want to make sure you never put in your battery backwards, because that could damage your electronics. So just be careful. And then down here you have a 28mm sized Smuggler's Outpost speaker. And with this chassis design, it's fully enclosed. So what will happen with that is the sound will all get funneled out. So the acoustics are really good on this saber. Saber is very loud, so your sound quality is really good. And then when you want to put the battery in, you just want to put it in the spring side first, making sure that's to the negative side of the battery, and then just pop it in like this.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
So once you put the battery in, you'll hear a boot sound to let you know that the battery's in, and what that boot sound does is tell you what sound font that you're on. So it's currently a Mando Dark Saber font from, I believe it's Juan Sith, and then I have another one from Kyberphonic, but it's got different versions. So you'll see that it has a Mando version, Moff Gideon, a Pre Vizsla, and a Sabine Wren from Rebels. So when you want to put the chassis in your saber, on the outside here you can see your little tactile button that ends up behind the switch when you insert it. So you just want to make sure you have it in this orientation, and when you're going to insert it, make sure that these little metal pins don't touch anything metal, because if they do, It's like connecting wires that aren't supposed to be connected. So it could short your board and fry your electronics. So you just want to be very careful. You want to just take it nice and slow and insert it. And then you want to push it all the way in until it stops. And then when you put your pommel on, like I said earlier, match up the hole with that hole right there. And that'll kind of push the chassis up in place where it needs to be. And then this is that little 3-piece assembly to hold the pommel piece in. So it goes the spacer, the nut piece, and then the screw. And then there's a little triangular cutout on the hilt. So you want to put it in the correct orientation. And you want to take your Allen key that is included with your saber and just tighten that down. Sometimes you might need to push on the pommel in to get it to align properly. You'll get a feel for it when you get your saber. Just tighten that down, and that's good to go. And then you can test it by turning on the saber with the press of the button. And like I said,
you are fighting against the blade.
So that particular font also has post off, so it'll do like a quote when you turn off the saber. This blade plug does light up. This is what that kind of bottom plate looks like that the pins make contact with. So when you insert it and turn it on, lights up like that.
I'd put that on ice if I were you.
All right, so I'm gonna flip the camera view around to show you how to insert the blade real quick. All right, so this is your dark saber blade. It is proprietary tool to this hilt. No other saber hilt takes this blade, and it actually comes pre-made when you buy this hilt empty. So I did not assemble this, which is nice. It's a little bit less work for me to do. There's that little plate at the bottom, and as you can see, it's the same as the blade plug there. So I'll kind of show you too. Those little gold, you can see a little bit of gold in those holes. Those are the ones with the threads that your blade retention screws thread into. So when you're inserting it, there's this angle right here, and there's this angle on the hilt here. So this is the correct orientation. This is incorrect. Obviously, if you were to put it in this way, it wouldn't even go in all the way. So you want to match up those angles and slide it in, and it'll look like that. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, I'll try to show you the difference between the screws. So let's see, there it is. So that's the short screw. That's a little out of focus, but that's the long one. You can see the difference in length there. So for the one you want to insert your blade, you want to use the long screws. And then sometimes what I notice is that you do have to push in the blade a little bit, because the pogo pins on the chassis have a little bit of like a spring-loaded depth to it. And it'll push back up on the blade and it'll misalign those holes. So you need to, what I like to do is kind of push in and then kind of clamp my fingers on the hilt to hold that all in place. So then you can actually look down into each hole and see that the holes line up. So once you got that in place, this keeps falling out, you can start to put one of your screws in. And also, like I mentioned earlier, there's 2 sets of 4 screws. When you have the blade plug in, it's kind of okay to use 1 or 2 screws. It's not holding much weight in, it's just a little mini blade plug. But when you want to put the blade in and swing it around a little bit, you should use all 4 screws, absolutely. If you put only 2 in, you'll see that it wobbles a little bit. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to put 2 in just to kind of save me some time here. And I'm not going to be swinging it that hard. I'm just going to demo all of its features real quick.
You are fighting against the blade.
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier as well, you have one button. So to turn the blade on and off, you want to press it, and it's like a short press, like half a second. And then to turn it back on, you just want to press and hold.
I'd put that on ice if I were you.
All right. And then to switch sound fonts, you want to hold the button until it says sound bank selection.
Sound bank selection.
I am told it is the Dark Saber.
And unfortunately with one button, you can't scroll up and down. You only go up the list and it'll loop back around. So when you want to select a font, you want to go through all of them.
This is ancient.
Maybe I should practice more first.
Take it. It's yours. Ignite the blade.
So this first one is the Sabine Wren version of the Dark Saber. So when you hit the hilt, it'll do a clash, and it has smooth swing. So it's very sensitive in detecting the motion of how you're moving the saber. And there's accent swings when you do a hard swing. And then when you tap the button, it does blaster deflex. And then if you tap and hold the button and hit the saber at the same time, it does a saber lock. This is a little bit difficult to activate, but each sound font has either forced sounds or most of the time it has quotes. And to activate those, you want to press and hold the button and swing, do a hard swing at the same time. There's a way that I can make that easier to activate, and before I get this to you tomorrow, I'll make sure to edit that, but let's see if I can try to get this for you. Yeah, it's a little difficult. It's just an issue with the button timing. To do that function and to turn off the saber, it's too similar, so they often get mixed up. But I'll fix that before tomorrow. But yeah. To turn on the music, you want to press and hold the button until the music starts playing. To switch the track, you can press and hold the button until it switches to the next one. So there's a couple tracks on there you can kind of explore and see what you like. You can double tap to pause and play the music while the saber's off. And then Dark Saber really only has one blade and color and blade style, but if you want to change it, you can press and hold the button and twist the hilt, and it'll go to color selection mode.
Spectrum.
It'll say spectrum. And then you can twist the saber, change it to any color you want. Let's put it back on white. And then you can also change the blade style. So might be a little bit hard to tell, but you can see off the reflection of my hand, it's kind of doing a little sparkle effect. That's a specific blade style for the Dark Saber. But if you want to change that, you do the same thing, but you press and hold the button until it says blade profile.
Spectrum.
Keep holding.
Blade profiles.
And then you can twist the saber, and there's a bunch of different things. So it's like pulsing. That one looks like it's a little bit of a flicker. That one's a little more noticeable. Kind of a surround effect. So you can mess with that, see what you like. I'm gonna put it back on the Dark Saber blade style.
Blade profiles.
There we go. Show you some of the other fonts real quick.
Sound bank selection. Maybe I should practice more first.
I claim this
So
sword,
there's Darth Maul.
and my rightful place as leader of Death Watch. The Dark Saber,
Moff
it
Gideon.
belongs to you. The Dark Saber, it belongs to you.
So there's two different ones. I think they just have slightly different quotes.
Moff Gideon.
And then the last one,
I am Pre Vizsla.
actually second.
We
to
are
this
the
one.
Death Watch, descendants of the true warrior faith all Mandalorians once knew.
So that's from the Clone Wars show, if you have not seen that. And then
I am told it is the Dark Saber.
this is the Mandalorian.
What weapon caused such a wound?
I'd put that on ice if I were you.
One thing I don't recommend is hitting the blade against anything because of just how it's made. It's fairly fragile. So if you want to do like the saber clashes and stuff, I recommend just tapping the hilt itself. You know, this, you know, it's okay to bump that. But yeah, get a double tap for the music. Actually,
You are fighting
when it's off.
against the blade.
I'd put that on ice if I were you.
All right, and then when you want to take the blade back out, you just take those blade retention screws out, and you'll want to take them out completely. Now I'll just slide it out. And then, let's see, when you want to take the chassis out and take the battery out, you just, basically the reverse process as before, take this screw out that holds the pommel piece in, slide that out, cup your hand, and tap the hilt against your hands, the chassis will slide down, slowly take that out, and then what I like to do for the battery is bump this part of the chassis right here and cup my hand, and it'll fall usually right into your hands, just like that. And then with your saber, I included a little battery charger. Just plugs into the wall and you pop the battery in. So yeah, that is your Dark Saber. I had a lot of fun making it, and it was a pleasure to get my hands on it because it's so unique and the blade is like really cool and all that. So thank you for having me make this saber for you, and I hope you enjoy your saber. Thank you for watching.